Beyond the Gates spoilers for Monday, September 1, 2025 tease that Chelsea's tragedy will explode as Allison forces her into a marriage she never wanted, dragging her down a path of stifling control and inevitable destruction. The wedding day itself is a performance, not a celebration, stitched together with hollow smiles and unspoken terror. Chelsea walks down the aisle with her head bowed, each step heavy with fear, her pale fingers clutching the bouquet so tightly that the petals fall to the floor like silent confessions. Allison stands at the altar waiting, her expression calculated, a mask of devotion stretched over a heart hardened by obsession. For the guests, it's odd, even charming in a bizarre way, the unique ceremony where the vows sound more like commands than promises. But for Chelsea, every word was like a chain tightening around her throat. As the officiant declares them bound, Chelsea feels the weight of inevitability pressing against her ribs. Applause erupts in the room, people clinking glasses, forcing laughter, convinced they are witnessing a love story, but Chelsea's eyes drift past them, searching for an exit, searching for breath. She swallows her silence, because Allison is right beside her, gripping her hand with such force it nearly bruises. That grip says everything: "You are mine, you will not escape." When the ceremony ends, Allison wastes no time pushing forward, dragging Chelsea toward the car with the same relentless force she has used to maneuver every step of their relationship. Chelsea hesitates, her feet rooted in quiet rebellion, but Allison leans in close, whispering promises laced with threats, promises that if Chelsea resists, the consequences will spread far beyond her. Chelsea, cornered by fear, follows. The car becomes their cage. The honeymoon, instead of freedom or intimacy, is just another prison constructed out of motion. The drive is supposed to symbolize the start of their journey together, yet it is nothing more than a continuation of the cage. The silence between them is tense, charged with years of manipulation, with the festering wounds of words never allowed to be spoken. Chelsea sits rigid, her eyes locked on the blur of trees and asphalt outside, as though the world beyond the window is whispering escape routes. Allison, however, cannot stand the silence. She thrives on conflict, on forcing Chelsea to react, to engage, to bend. The words begin as sharp remarks, criticisms dressed as questions, probing for weakness. Chelsea resists answering, but the pressure mounts until something inside her fractures. Her voice, hoarse from suppression, erupts with curses that have been clawing at her throat for months. Allison snaps. Anger spills out, uncontainable, and her hand darts toward her side. She had prepared for this. She had known resistance would come. From beneath her clothes, a knife gleams in her grip, a blade hidden until now, meant not just for defense but for control. She brandishes it, her eyes burning, forcing Chelsea to acknowledge her power. Chelsea recoils, her chest tightening with both fear and fury. For too long she has yielded, but something primal stirs now, a refusal to remain prey. Her hand lashes out, grabbing Allison's wrist, struggling for the blade. The car swerves under the chaos, tires screeching against the asphalt. The fight is frantic, desperate. Chelsea's nails dig into Allison's skin, Allison's knuckles whiten as she clings to the knife, and all the while the car veers dangerously. Then pain erupts in Chelsea's abdomen, white-hot and consuming. The blade has found her flesh, plunging deep, stealing her breath. She gasps, eyes wide with disbelief, as warm blood soaks through her dress. The world tilts violently when the car collides with another vehicle, metal folding in on itself with a deafening scream. At the same time, elsewhere on the road, Kat grips her phone tightly, calling Anita with urgent updates about Chelsea. Her voice trembles but remains steady enough to report, promising she will keep watch, she will not let Chelsea's ordeal go unseen. But as she speaks, a sound fractures the moment: a scream, raw and piercing, echoing through the line. Anita panics on the other end, calling Kat's name again and again, her words swallowed by static and fear. Kat turns her attention forward, her heart leaping into her throat. "Jacob, the truck!" she shouts, pointing to the looming mass of steel hurtling toward them. Jacob jerks the wheel, but it is too late. The truck slams into them, tearing through the illusion of safety in a single violent instant. The impact is brutal, glass exploding around them, the world spinning out of control. In a sickening twist of fate, the truck that crushed Jacob and Kat's car is none other than the vehicle Allison was driving. Two tragedies intersect in the same breath, the universe folding cruelty upon cruelty. The wreckage is grotesque, bodies trapped in twisted metal, sirens still far away. Chelsea lies crumpled in her seat, blood pooling, every breath shallow, the knife wound refusing to close. She teeters on the edge of consciousness, her eyes fluttering as her world dims. Allison stumbles out of the wreck, staggering, her hands trembling, her face pale and drenched in sweat. For the first time, doubt claws at her mind. She stares at Chelsea's broken body, torn between the instinct to save her and the darker instinct to run, to leave her behind, to erase the evidence of her own monstrous choices. Kat, dazed and disoriented, forces herself out of the mangled car. Pain shoots through her limbs, but adrenaline keeps her moving. She sees Jacob slumped over the steering wheel, blood staining his shirt, his breaths shallow. Panic claws at her throat as she tries to shake him awake, her hands sticky with his blood. And then her gaze lifts across the wreckage, and she sees Allison emerging from the opposite car. Recognition sparks fury. The sight of Allison alive, while Chelsea and Jacob teeter on death's edge, ignites a scream from Kat that pierces the night. "Allison!" she cries, her voice breaking with rage and fear. Allison freezes, caught in Kat's eyes, and the fragile threads of her composure snap. She turns, bolting toward the shadowed forest, fleeing the wreckage as though the trees could swallow her sins. Her silhouette vanishes into darkness, leaving chaos behind. Kat's hands shake as she pulls her phone again, calling desperately for an ambulance, shouting their location into the receiver. Her voice cracks, urging them to hurry, to bring help before it is too late. The world feels suspended in those moments, every second stretching, every heartbeat heavy with dread. Chelsea and Jacob both hover on the thin line between life and death, their fates uncertain, their breaths shallow whispers against the roar of approaching sirens. As Chelsea drifts in and out of consciousness, fragments of memory flicker in her mind. She sees the ceremony again, Allison's cold smile, the suffocating vows. She hears the clash of words in the car, the hiss of the knife slicing through air, the burning sting of betrayal as the blade entered her flesh. Guilt seeps in, unbidden, whispering that perhaps she should have fought harder before, that perhaps she should have run when she had the chance. But another voice, softer yet unyielding, insists this is not her fault. That survival itself is an act of defiance against Allison's control. Jacob, too, fights against the darkness. His mind flickers with images of roads, of Kat's voice warning him, of headlights swelling larger until impact stole the world away. He feels the weight of responsibility, the crushing realization that he could not protect her, that his hand slipped from control at the worst possible moment. His chest aches not just from broken ribs but from the unbearable thought of Kat suffering because of him. The ambulance lights finally cut through the night, red and blue flashing against the wreckage like fractured hope. Paramedics rush forward, their voices firm, commanding. Kat clings to Jacob's hand, refusing to let go even as they strap him to a stretcher. She follows the stretcher with determined steps, her own body screaming from bruises and cuts, but she refuses to rest. Chelsea's condition is dire, the knife wound deep, blood loss severe. Medics press gauze to her abdomen, working frantically to stabilize her. Her body trembles, her skin pale, her lips tinged blue, yet her eyes flicker open for a brief moment. She catches sight of Kat, of Jacob being lifted, and the faintest whisper escapes her cracked lips, a plea, a fragment of connection before her head falls back, unconscious once more. Anita, still on the other end of the phone, has not stopped shouting Kat's name. When Kat finally answers, her voice shaking, she explains the wreck, the chaos, the danger. Anita listens, horror etched into every word, feeling powerless, trapped miles away yet tethered to the nightmare unfolding. She promises she will come, she will be there, she will not let Kat face this alone. Meanwhile, in the woods, Allison runs with panic flooding her veins. Branches whip against her skin, roots claw at her ankles, but she does not stop. Her mind is a storm of justifications and fears, Replaying the crash, the knife, Chelsea's blood. She tells herself she had no choice, that Chelsea forced her hand, that everything spiraled out of control because Chelsea would not submit. Yet beneath the self-deception, the truth was, she has destroyed everything. The night stretches on, filled with sirens, cries, and whispered prayers. The wreckage lies abandoned, but its echoes will haunt every soul entangled in it. Chelsea's life dangles by a fragile thread, Jacob's survival uncertain, Kat's fury burning hotter than ever, and Allison's shadow disappearing deeper into the forest, where choices grow darker and consequences more severe. The hospital becomes the first fragile barrier between life and death. The emergency room doors crash open as paramedics wheel Chelsea in. Her chest barely rises, each breath a struggle, each second another test of her endurance. Jacob follows soon after, unconscious but clinging to a faint pulse, his body battered from the wreck. Kat trails behind both stretchers, her hair matted with blood, her eyes wide with a cocktail of grief and determination. She refuses to sit, refuses to rest, pacing the hallway as though her movement alone could anchor Jacob and Chelsea to this world. Anita finally arrives, rushing through the sterile halls with her voice echoing Jacob's and Chelsea's names. She finds Kat slumped against the wall, phone still in hand, her face pale but her spirit unbroken. They cling to each other in a desperate embrace, sharing no words at first, just the raw silence of shared fear. When Kat finally speaks, her voice cracks. She tells Anita about Allison, about seeing her walk out of the other car, about the moment she recognized her face and watched her run into the woods. The words tumble out fast, a flood of panic and certainty. Allison caused this. Allison left them to die. Anita's jaw tightens, her fists clenching. Rage flickers behind her eyes, but so does helplessness. She knows Allison, knows the depth of her manipulation, the way she weaves herself into lives like a parasite. What she doesn't know is how far Allison is willing to go now that everything has spiraled out of control. The question gnaws at her: if Allison is free, then what will she do next? Chelsea remains in critical condition. Surgeons operate for hours, the knife wound having punctured deeper than they initially feared. Kat and Anita wait, whispering prayers, their hands locked tightly together as the minutes stretch endlessly. When the doctor finally emerges, exhaustion written across his face, he delivers the truth in cautious words. Chelsea has survived the surgery, but her condition remains unstable. The blood loss, the trauma her body is fighting, but the outcome is uncertain. She will remain in intensive care, watched every second, her future dangling on a thread. Jacob's injuries, though severe, offer a sliver of hope. Broken ribs, a concussion, internal bleeding stabilized by swift intervention. He is unconscious, but the doctors believe he has a fighting chance. Kat holds on to that fragile hope like a lifeline, sitting by his bed, whispering to him in the still hours of night. She tells him to wake up, tells him they need to see Chelsea together, tells him he cannot leave her now. Her voice is steady, but her eyes glisten with tears she will not let fall. Far from the hospital, Allison wanders deeper into the woods, her dress torn, her skin scratched by branches, her mind unraveling. Each step is guided not by direction but by fear. She hears sirens in the distance, each wail tightening her chest with paranoia. She imagines the police surrounding her, imagines Kat screaming her name again, imagines Chelsea's face pale, bloodied, broken, haunting her every blink. She talks to herself, whispering excuses, twisting the narrative in her mind to protect herself from the unbearable truth. She made me do it, Allison mutters. She never loved me, she forced me to this. Yet even as she says it, her voice trembles, the life faltering against the crushing weight of reality. Night turns colder, and Allison finds herself drawn to an abandoned cabin tucked within the trees. She pushes open the creaking door, stepping inside a hollow space that feels both sheltering and suffocating. She paces the room, knife still clutched in her blood-stained hand, her reflection fractured in the shards of a broken mirror on the wall. For the first time, she sees herself clearly, not as the lover she pretended to be, but as the architect of destruction. And yet, even here, guilt does not break her. Instead, it hardens into something darker, a need to finish what she started, to ensure no one stands against her. Back at the hospital, Chelsea stirs in her bed. Machines beep steadily, keeping rhythm with her fragile breaths. Her eyes flutter open, unfocused at first, but then sharpening against the dim light. Pain radiates through her abdomen, every movement a reminder of how close she came to dying. For a moment, panic grips her, memories of the car, the knife, Allison's face twisting with rage, but then she sees Kat leaning forward, Anita by her side, relief flooding their expressions as they realize she is awake. Chelsea cannot speak at first. Her throat is dry, her lips cracked, but her eyes convey the storm inside her. Kat takes her hand gently, whispering reassurances, telling her she is safe now. Chelsea shakes her head weakly, mouthing a single name, Allison. The word slices through the room like glass, a reminder that safety is only an illusion as long as Allison is free. Anita leans closer, her voice low but firm. She promises Chelsea that Allison will not get away, that she will not be allowed to linger in the shadows. But even as she says it, fear curls in her stomach. Allison has always been unpredictable, always one step ahead. If she survived the crash and chose to disappear, then she is already planning her next move. And Allison's next move has always been her most dangerous. Chelsea drifts back into restless sleep, haunted by nightmares. In her dreams, she is back in the car, the knife pressing into her skin, Allison's voice echoing like a curse. She wakes with tears in her eyes, clutching her stomach, feeling the phantom pain of betrayal all over again. Kat watches over her, torn between anger and sorrow. She wants to hunt Allison down herself, to drag her into the light and make her answer for everything she has done. But she also knows her place is here, by Jacob's side, by Chelsea's side, holding the pieces together until the storm outside can be faced. Meanwhile, Allison's isolation festers into obsession. She sits in the cabin, carving lines into the wooden table with her knife, muttering plans under her breath. She imagines confronting Chelsea again, finishing what was interrupted, proving that her love is stronger than Chelsea's resistance. In Allison's twisted mind, the crash was not the end, it was a test of loyalty, of survival, of destiny. Chelsea survived, and now Allison believes it is fate that binds them closer, not further apart. Her paranoia drives her to the edge. She imagines Kat hunting her, imagines Anita rallying others against her, imagines Jacob recovering just to stand between them. Rage boils within her, feeding her delusions. If they want a war, she thinks, then she will give them one. At the hospital, time crawls. Jacob slowly regains consciousness, groaning in pain, his eyes heavy with exhaustion. Kat nearly collapses in relief, clutching his hand, tears finally spilling down her face. She tells him what happened, about the crash, about Allison. His jaw tightens, his body weak but his resolve firm. He whispers that they have to stop her, that Allison will not stop until Chelsea is destroyed. Anita begins making calls, reaching out for help, trying to alert the authorities. But there is a gnawing fear in her heart. Allison has always slipped through cracks, always managed to twist the truth. If she emerges from the woods with another story, if she paints herself as the victim, will anyone believe the truth? Chelsea, still fragile, listens to them plan. Her voice is weak, but her words are sharp. She says Allison will come back, not to surrender, not to hide, but to finish. The thought chills the room. Everyone knows Chelsea is right. The question is not if Allison will return, but when. In the woods, the night stretches into dawn, and Allison steps out of the cabin with renewed purpose. Her eyes are bloodshot, her skin pale, but her movements are deliberate. She grips the knife tighter, her mind clear in one terrifying way: she cannot let them destroy her. If Chelsea refuses her love, then Chelsea must pay. If Kat and Jacob stand in her way, they must be silenced. If Anita dares interfere, she will regret it. The game has shifted now. The crash was only the beginning. What waits ahead is confrontation, not accident. Choices made with full intent, vengeance sharpened by obsession. As the sun rises, casting its cold light over broken roads and sterile hospital rooms, the sense of dread grows heavier. They all know it, Allison is out there, and she is not finished. The weight of silence becomes unbearable in the hospital. Every corridor hums with machines and hushed conversations, But beneath the surface, everyone feels the same unspoken truth: the storm is not over. Chelsea lies in her bed, healing but fragile, her eyes hollow with both trauma and determination. Jacob rests nearby, alive yet weakened, while Kat and Anita stand guard, their vigilance sharpened into something more than care. It feels less like recovery and more like preparation for war. Allison's shadow stretches across each of their thoughts. She is not just a fugitive in the woods, she is a presence they can almost feel breathing down their necks. Every door creak, every whisper of wind feels like it could be her, and they know she is planning something. Days pass, and Chelsea slowly regains strength. The nurses see resilience where others expect collapse. But her resolve is not born from hope, it is born from rage. She remembers Allison's face above her in the car, the knife sinking into her stomach, and she knows she will never truly heal unless she confronts her. Her survival feels hollow without closure. Kat notices this fire, sees it burning in Chelsea's eyes, and though she fears it, she also understands it. Kat herself has been consumed with thoughts of Allison, of the nightmarish image of her walking away from the wreck, of her retreat into the woods like a predator waiting for the right moment. Kat doesn't want Chelsea to fight alone, but she knows the battle is inevitable. One night, as rain lashes against the windows, the hospital is thrown into chaos. The lights flicker, the power struggling against the storm outside. Nurses rush to secure equipment, doctors bark orders, but in the midst of the distraction, a figure slips inside. Allison moves like a phantom, her clothes still tattered from the forest, her eyes wild but focused. The knife is gone, but she doesn't need it. Their presence alone is a weapon. She finds Chelsea's room with unnerving ease, as though drawn by instinct. The door creaks open, and Chelsea lifts her head, her heart pounding. Their eyes lock, and the room freezes in that moment. Allison steps forward, whispering Chelsea's name as though it were a prayer, a plea, and a threat all at once. "You survived," Allison breathes, a twisted smile tugging at her lips. "I knew you would. That's why you're mine. We're bound by this." Chelsea forces herself upright, pain shooting through her body, but she does not look away. Her voice is steady, sharper than Allison has ever heard. "I'm not yours. I was never yours." The words cut deeper than any blade. Allison flinches, her mask cracking, desperation spilling out. She steps closer, reaching for Chelsea as though she can force her claim back into existence. But before her hand touches the bed, Kat bursts in, her voice shattering the tension. "Stay away from her," Kat shouts, grabbing the nearest object, a chair, and holding it between them like a shield. Allison turns, her eyes blazing with fury at being interrupted. Anita appears seconds later, having followed the noise. She freezes at the sight, her body trembling, but her eyes harden. For months she has been on the edges of this battle, watching Allison's destruction spread like poison. Now, standing in the same room, she feels something shift. She will not be powerless anymore. The confrontation spirals into chaos. Allison screams, her words incoherent, torn between declarations of love and vows of vengeance. She lunges, not with a weapon, but with bare hands fueled by obsession. Kat intercepts, shoving her back, the chair splintering under the force. Anita rushes to Chelsea's side, helping her sit up despite the pain, whispering for her to hold on, to stay strong. The noise draws Jacob from his room. Barely steady on his feet, he staggers into the doorway, his face pale but his eyes filled with resolve. Seeing Allison there ignites something in him, a refusal to let her destroy them further. His voice, though weak, cuts through the chaos. "It ends tonight, Allison." Allison freezes at his words, her chest heaving. She looks at them, Chelsea defiant in her bed, Kat standing firm, Anita shielding them, Jacob in the doorway, and for the first time, she sees the truth. She is outnumbered, not in strength, but in unity. Her obsession has isolated her, made her weak. Their bond, fractured by tragedy, has only grown stronger. Chelsea finds her voice again, steady despite the pain. "You can run, Allison. You can hide, but you'll never own me. What you call love is nothing but control, and I will never let you have me again." The words strip Allison of her last illusion. She stumbles back, her face twisting between rage and grief, her hands trembling. She screams a sound not of power, but of defeat bolts from the room, vanishing into the storm outside. Security is alerted, police called, but by the time they scour the hospital grounds, Allison is gone. She disappears into the rain, swallowed by the night, leaving behind only echoes of her presence. In the days that follow, the hospital becomes both a sanctuary and a fortress. Chelsea heals slowly, her body scarred but her spirit unbroken. Jacob gains strength, his recovery slower but steady, and Kat never leaves his side. Anita, once on the fringes, becomes their anchor, ensuring they are never alone, never vulnerable again. And yet, the shadow of Allison lingers. They know she is still out there, her obsession unquenched, her rage festering. But something has changed. Chelsea no longer fears her in the same way. She carries her scars not as reminders of weakness, but as proof of survival. One evening, as the sun sets in warm hues beyond the hospital window, Chelsea speaks softly, her voice carrying a weight that silences the room. She wanted me to break. She wanted me to belong to her. But I don't. I belong to myself. And no matter what happens, she can't take that from me. Kat squeezes her hand, Jacob nods weakly from his bed, and Anita smiles through tears. In that moment, they realize that the ending is not defined by Allison's disappearance, but by their refusal to let her win. The world beyond the gates of the hospital remains uncertain. Allison may return, or she may vanish forever into the shadows she created. But Chelsea, Kat, Jacob, and Anita have already chosen their path. They will face whatever comes, together, unbroken, carrying the scars of tragedy as symbols of strength. And if Allison does return, she will find not the girl she once controlled, but the woman who survived her, ready to fight again.